The night my life changed started with a leather bill holder and 5 crumpled dollars. The server set it down like a little black verdict, and my date to Tyler whispered, "I've got 5," like saying it soft would make it more money. And in that moment, every fork in the birch and brass seemed to pause in the air. You know what I mean. I could feel the room lean toward us, the manager hovering with that polite smile that says we've seen this before. My cheeks heating up while I counted what I had, and already knew it wasn't enough, and for a second I wanted to disappear into the booth seam, just vanish, but I didn't. I unclasped my lucky bracelet and tried to hand it over as collateral, my voice steady even though my hands shook, Tyler promising he'd Venmo tomorrow. The server doing math with his eyes. The kind of scene that makes you feel small even if you've spent your whole life learning how to stand tall. I'm Olivia. I run Seacliff Heights for a man named Grant Ellison, the kind of billionaire people write think pieces about. And I am good at what I do. Crisp shirts, calm morning schedules that move like a wristwatch, reading the quiet moods of a house before coffee has a chance to speak. But none of that mattered at that table, not to the crowd, pretending not to stare, not to the manager tapping the leather with his finger. Then the earpiece in his ear crackled. He stepped away, came back with different eyes. "Your bill's been taken care of, anonymous." And a new kind of heat washed over me because grace can be heavier than humiliation when you're not sure you deserve it. I thanked everybody within reach. Tyler didn't thank anybody. He cracked jokes about rich guilt and said we should figure out who paid so we could, I don't know, maybe make it happen again and out at the valet. Under those soft streetlights, he asked if we should keep the night going somewhere cheaper. And I heard my mother's voice in my head saying, "Stand up straight, say thank you, go home," so I did. The next morning, like every weekday at 6 a.m., I walked in the back gate of Seacliff Heights, the bay just turning silver, the house waking up to grapefruit and dark coffee and sunlight on expensive art. And Grant looked at me the way he looks when he notices something off, not a question, more like a quiet, "I see you." And I kept moving because that's what I do. I move the day forward. But the quiet, after a shock, sits with you. It makes its own chair and waits, and all week I felt it, the anonymous weight of kindness in my pocket, like a stone I couldn't name. And on Thursday, Grant called me into the study and said he'd been thinking about my role, how I made the house run, how he needed that same steadiness between the house and his office. Travel and calendars and 1,000 small decisions, double salary benefits, a car for work, guardrails. So I wasn't on call all night, no penalty, if I hated it. And he said it like he'd practiced not sounding generous. And I said yes because sometimes the door opens and you step through even if your legs are still shaking. The new job felt like directing a parade I used to march in. I built buffers for deep work. I learned which investor hates being boxed in a room. I started flying ahead to scout venues with good exits and better coffee, and somewhere along the way, Grant began asking for my gut on things that had nothing to do with linen counts. "Bring me that deck," he'd say. "What do you see?" And I'd point to the hole the buzzwords were hiding, and he'd give that no-teeth smile that means you're right, and respect grew under our feet. Until suddenly, we were taller. 3 months in late on a Tuesday, I was sorting receipts for tax season because wealth is allergic to loose paper. And there it was, the birch and brass, same date as the disaster. 2 lines, one for his table and one for the exact amount of mine, and a note in his neat print. Anonymous assistance. And my stomach dropped. The room tilted. The old heat climbed back into my face, gratitude and embarrassment and anger all at once. Yeah, that happened. I centered the receipt on his blotter, went home, slept like a stone, walked in the next morning, and watched the storm cross his face when he saw it. And before I could shape the question, he said, "I was there, I didn't realize it was you. Until you turned your head." I paid because being seen was already one kind of pain, and announcing you'd been seen felt like another. Did you offer me this job because you felt sorry for me? I asked, hating the sound of it, needing the truth anyway. And he said, no, I offered it. Because for 3 years, you did 5 people's work with one person's grace. The restaurant made me realize I'd underestimated how much weight you carry to keep everyone else comfortable. The bill was about stopping a scene. The role was about honoring your ability, and he said it without flinching. I told him I needed to know I wasn't a project. He leaned in like the table had gravity. Olivia, you've saved me from sending emails that would have cost me friends. You flagged a meeting that turned out to be a setup. You turned a house full of expensive objects into a place people breathe. And yes, seeing you hold your head level while that room twisted around you taught me something I don't see much in boardrooms: spine and grace. And we let the silence do its work, then shook on a new rule: no more secrets meant to protect me. If you see me, say, you see me, I can carry the truth. After that, everything got lighter. I stopped doubting every compliment. He stopped guarding every kindness. Work deepened. He took my advice on a solar startup. I traveled with him to deals where my job was to listen for what wasn't said. And one night in Seattle, after closing a beast of a negotiation, we sat with a bottle of champagne we didn't really want. And he said, I care about you, not because of that restaurant, not because of what you do for me, because of who you are when no one's watching. And if this is a terrible time, tell me and we'll pretend I didn't. And I laughed that messy laugh where relief and fear collide, and told him it wasn't a terrible time, it was the only time it could be. We were careful. Lawyers wrote protections, so no one could say my job depended on loving him. We moved slow until we didn't, and a year after the receipt, he proposed in the garden. Under the fundraiser, lights didn't say forever, said, let's keep choosing. And I said yes, because sometimes love sounds exactly like consent. You keep renewing. If the story ended there, it would be tidy, too tidy maybe. So here's the part that still sparks comments. A journalist wrote our origin like a benevolent prince plucked a girl from the kitchen, I said. I wasn't comfortable. Grant said he didn't control the press. I said he could challenge it. He said pushing back would amplify it. I said silence felt like agreement. We went around like two people who are both right and tired. And I snapped easy for you. You'll never be the girl counting cash at a table again. And he winced, like I'd thrown something sharp, then said quietly, and you'll never be anonymous again, and I'm the reason. I'm sorry for both. And we sat in that, then wrote our own note, not to the reporter, but to our foundation's site, the version where power is named and messy and handled in daylight. People argued in the comments, and honestly, that felt right. Now our life is loud and ordinary in equal measure. Some of his friends call me a stabilizer. Some are polite and distant, like I'm an expensive rug that doesn't match the couch. A few are ugly in private. Money doesn't fix small spirits. It just dresses them better. And I run a small consultancy, teaching women who manage households how to translate that into operations. Because if you can juggle 5 kids and 3 appointments and a dying dryer, you can run any calendar in the city. And we started a fund for service workers who hit life potholes, flat tires that might turn into missed rent. Because I still feel that leather bill holder in my bones, and I want the world to bend toward kindness a little faster. So here's the hook biting its tail again. If a stranger pays your bill in a crowded room, are you grateful or offended or both? If that stranger turns out to be your boss, does every good thing after get tainted? Or is it the first brick in a fairer road? You help build. If you'd been me at that table, heat in your face, bracelet in your palm, do you accept the help or insist on the lesson? I took the help, I built the life, I keep the bracelet by the door and touch it at night, not for luck, just to remember that people are watching, and sometimes they do the right thing, and sometimes you do too. Tell me what you think. Was Grant right to step in quietly, or did he cross a line? Money makes easy. Was I right to take the job? Or should I have drawn a harder border between mercy and opportunity? If you've lived a moment like that, a night that could have broken you or remade you, What did you choose, and would you choose it again? Drop your story and your take in the comments. Call out the double standards. Defend the strangers who tried argue with me if you need to. I'll be there reading because this didn't end when the bill got paid. That was just where we started choosing.